Sean Combs, known as Diddy, is under investigation for alleged trafficking.
It was hard for me to be so young and be in the industry.
So I decided to re-record this video and upload it with better quality and more calmly, right? Because I'm not used to seeing things like that. Yes, today I will discuss everything that is currently happening. Well, most things, at least the ones I felt were most important. So stay here, I will be telling you everything in chronological order. From a little about Diddy, also about all the accusations they have at these moments, and also about all the celebrities who are being linked at this moment with Pitt. Well, or that people are linking with him as if they perhaps had something to do with all this, right? Let's start, as this video might be lengthy. But first, hello, good little dogs of good or evil. Before we begin, we should know that P. Diddy is a successful American composer, rapper, and businessman. He has made a lot of money from his music career, not just by making music, but also by composing songs and running a record label. It is said that from a very young age, he was quite intelligent, but that he was also a person since he was a little boy, he was always a very bossy person. That's why he also has the nickname of Puff Daddy. Actually, I'm never going to call him Puff Daddy in this video, Susanna, because I don't even call my dad Daddy, you know? I don't even call my dad Papi. How am I going to call another man like that? No, but well, yes. What's his name? Yes, they called him Puff Daddy, because since he was little, he was always pretending like Puff Puff, you know? He always complained about things. He also went on when he started to grow up, very well known in his school, and he started to become very popular because of the parties he threw, because according to him, his parties were iconic, and it was something that didn't change over time because his parties were no longer iconic, Susanna. Over time, his parties became traumatizing for many people. But about that, well, we'll talk more later. Thanks to one of his friends, around the year of 1996, he met a composer. Well, not a composer. A very important producer named Andrew Harrell, right? And this man kind of became obsessed with him because he always wanted to be with him, right? He always wanted to be with P. Diddy all the time. He already wanted him to leave his studies and focus on the record label. He quickly put him in very important positions. He even made him the vice president. Being that he was an inexperienced person, I mean, literally, he hardly knew anything about music compared to other people, and they had already put him in those positions. So then people started to investigate a little, and other people came out to talk, and they said that this man has the same record as Pete. Well, even worse, because he already has that record of forcing minors to do inappropriate things with him. Look at the words I use, Susanna, so that YouTube doesn't take down this video, please. But yes, he forced minors to do inappropriate things to supposedly boost them in music and put them in a higher rank in music. And it is thought that that was what he did with Big Diddy. And that's why he was so obsessed. And he put him in such a high rank shortly after he started at his record label. And, well, he was very happy at the record label. And there came a time when he himself fired him because, according to him, it was because there couldn't be two kings in a reign, right? But many people think it was because he started getting too close with another producer named Clive Davis. That producer is even bigger than the other Andrew. Imagine that he was Andrew's mentor. That's Susanna. And that Clive is said to be 1,000 times worse and did 1,000 times worse things with minors. And it is said that he and Pete, Diddy and Susanna also had something, right? That the two of them had the little thing. Because imagine that Clive gave him the record label, gave him control of his record label, which was the biggest at that time. He had very important people, Mariah Carey, he had Whitney Houston. I mean, he had very important people, and people are kind of involving everything with everything that says, look, maybe now everything makes a little sense. Obviously, there is no justification for the things he is doing, but you see how there is a pattern in things and how they end up normalizing that. You know, like, they did it to me. Well, I'm going to do it to you too, because it's something normal in the industry, you know? You have to go through this to be someone big. The Accusations. In November of 2023, his ex-partner almost filed a lawsuit. They were together for about 11 years, but their relationship was intermittent, you know? Like they would break up and get back together, break up and get back together. Something shady is that they started dating when she was 19 years old and he was 30 years old. And they started dating when I think he went to one of her music videos or something like that. They met there, and well, he supposedly fell in love with her, Susanna, like love at first sight, and he wanted her, you know? He wanted that woman. Obviously, she was dazzled by all the luxury, with all the promises. He signed her, and she was well, her contract was like she had to make 13 albums with him. Imagine there are celebrities who in their entire career don't get to make 13 albums. And obviously with that contract, he had her almost as a slave for life, you know? Like for all her life, she had to stay with him because literally the contract with 13 albums lasted almost all her life. He had her tied up. So she started to tell atrocious things that he did to her, that in the first place, he made her consume illicit substances so that she would harass other men with multiple men. And he liked to see that kind of things. Besides that, he always had her consuming those things without her even realizing it. But it's like she doesn't remember many things from her life because he constantly had her like that, you know? In that kind of things. Apart from that, he also physically assaulted her. There's a video that's going very viral. Well, that went very viral in 2023. I think that video came out. It was a hotel that leaked it, since they were together in a hotel and they had argued. She waited for him to fall asleep. When he fell asleep, I think it was in the sauna, he fell asleep. She slowly left the hotel to escape. It seems he woke up and felt her leaving. He chased her, Susanna, and began physically assaulting her terribly. I won't show the video here for obvious reasons. But yes, it's a quite traumatizing, quite horrible video to see the way he assaulted her. The worst thing is that when she made that accusation in November 2023, he completely denied it. He started to say that she was crazy, right? That she was making all of this up, that they didn't believe her, that all she wanted was money from him. And then when the video came out, Juana Maria, he had to come out and say like, no, I didn't remember that had happened.
I'm sorry. I was a bit of a man, I don't know what. After having denied everything.
Having made her look like a crazy person. Another super terrible thing about their relationship that I tell you, he had her literally almost a slave to him, and she was in constant terror with this man since he had a history of committing crimes or doing improper things that I will tell you about later, but, you know, of committing crimes, and that in the end, nothing would happen to him because of the money he had, the power he had, because he could buy whoever he wanted. He had her threatened with her family since he knew where all her relatives lived. Once her car exploded, you know, he had her constantly threatened. This woman, she lived, she said, in a state of terror. Apart from that, her career depended on him and her family depended on her. So she said, if I leave him in the first place, he can end me and my relatives, you know? And she knew that this man was crazy and that there was not going to be any justice because she saw the atrocious things he did to her and no one came out to speak. So who was going to believe her when she came out to speak? So that happened. She came out to speak. He started to say that it was a lie. Whatever. The day after she filed the lawsuit, she withdrew the lawsuit because supposedly they reached an agreement, right? That supposedly they privately agreed. Exactly who knows what happened with those people? It's known that he paid the hotel $50,000 to prevent them from leaking the video that had leaked from the hotel. The second lawsuit came from a girl named Jones. She said that in the year 1990, he forced her to do inappropriate things when she was only 16 years old. But not only him, he was there with another man, right? They forced her to do inappropriate things when she was only 16 years old. Obviously, without her consent, she says she was traumatized for life. And what traumatized her the most is that she saw him everywhere, succeeding, being the best. So she was saying like, if I speak up, no one will believe me. And that's a bit of what's happening right now because people are like, no, you don't have proof. And he was also saying like that happened in 1990. And according to him, in 1990, those things were legal. What can I tell you? After that, her third lawsuit came from another girl who wanted to do it anonymously. According to him, he had hired her as a model. So she was very excited. She was 17 years old. She was very excited. And they told her to go to such a place. There you are going to be a model. And what does it matter that there, she says that, what was the word she was using? They forced her to do inappropriate things. Not just him, but several men who were at that place. Like she says she was traumatized for life. That girl was traumatized for life. Obviously, she left the modeling world. She left everything for her, the worst experience of her life. She says that moment ruined her life because those are images that will haunt her forever. And the worst thing is that afterwards, those women were threatened, They were strongly threatened, causing them to remain silent for many years. This explains why people question their delayed response in speaking out. Or I don't know what, because they won't believe them. Also, they see he's a man with too much power who always gets his way, who can buy police and witnesses to say this is all a lie and the girl is crazy. Obviously, I understand that they are scared and that's why they don't want to come forward and speak. His fourth lawsuit, the most important one and the one I'm sure has him shaking, comes from Rodney Jones Jr. He filed the lawsuit in February 2024, but he lived with Pete Diddy from 2022 to 2023. They lived together for a year and he says it was the most traumatic year of his life. First of all, things started off quite mildly, right? Like Pete Diddy wanted the two of them to get intimate, right? The guy clearly didn't want to do it. I'm telling you, he was producing the album for Pit Diddy. Literally, the album that Pit Diddy released, I think in 2023, was him who produced the album. And well, to him, Pit Diddy is a truly admirable person. He had him as a teacher. Pit Diddy was going to be his life mentor. He noticed that Pit Diddy's associates were successful people and he aspired to be among them. Pit Diddy wanted to be intimate with him, but he didn't want the same with Pit Diddy. So he says that one of P. Diddy's manipulations was to start showing him videos of producers he admired being intimate with men, Men, things that had happened at P. Diddy's parties and that P. Diddy had recorded. So P. Diddy started showing him things like, you're a fan of such and such person. And then he would show him a video of that person being intimate with someone of the same gender. And well, the boy was obviously also very traumatized because he was like, how? Like this man who I thought was the straightest guy in the neighborhood, the one who acts the most macho doing those things, at Pit Diddy's parties, and Pit Diddy had everything recorded. So he says that he would pull out a name after Pit Diddy and show him something, super like that about that person, and that he was like saying that then Pit Diddy said yes because everyone does that. Here, that is normal. People who are famous, all people who are famous do this kind of things. Besides, to get far, you have to do this kind of things. It's a risk that we all have to take. Then he started to tell him things like that. And obviously he didn't want to until he says that at one point, a man who has something from Cuba, the name of that person is called Cuba Warren, I think. And he has been friends with Pete Diddy for years, was invited to a yacht with Pete Diddy, right? He says Pete Diddy was there with a woman and left him alone with a man who was hinting at him too much. At first, he laughed uncomfortably, but it made him uneasy. He mentioned a famous man who laughed uncomfortably and then began touching him inappropriately, implying unwanted sexual advances. And because according to P. Diddy, he had told him yes, and he had sold him in a certain way, Like the man bought him to have a night with him and that he didn't want to. And the man got too angry at that moment. He says that he had to push the man and that it was something terrible. But he says that after that, things changed and then they started giving him illicit substances, Susana. Then he says that suddenly he would wake up in a bed with Pit Diddy next to him and with other men. And he says that was terrible. Pit Diddy started showing him recordings. I mean, he had recorded him all this time and he felt very bad because he said, if I get out of here or start speaking my truth, they are going to start showing those videos because he was threatened with those videos. And then also because he had lived things that had shown him that Pit Diddy always got his way. For example, they say that on one occasion was Pit Diddy's eldest son with Pete Diddy and the son's friend. And that the son's friend started fighting with the son. Well, girl, they started fighting. They had a difference. Then he says that he heard some shots in the bathroom, that when Pete Diddy's son entered, he had shot him and that the boy was on the floor, bleeding. Then they called the ambulance and they said they found the boy on the street, that it seems that people on the street shot him. The boy never accused Pete Diddy because obviously he was scared that something would happen to him, The friend never accused him, never said anything, and he saw how they got away with it. Besides that, he says that P. Diddy to this day always talks about an occasion that I think happened in the year 1999, that there was a shooting. That also includes J. Lo Juana Maria, which I wanted to discuss later, Talk like he's one of the famous, but well, Yes, the shooting for which P. Diddy was guilty, in the end, they never arrested him and they blamed someone else because P. Diddy bought off the police, Susanna. So he saw him as a man who was always going to get away with it. It didn't matter if he spoke, it didn't matter what he did. They were never going to believe him, you know? So he says that year was traumatic for him, that he experienced many traumatic things. P. Diddy's parties, he says that was the worst, the most disgusting thing in the world, were that man's parties. And, well, to Puff Daddy, oh no, they arrested P. Diddy a few days ago, and they arrested him because apparently they found evidence that proved that one thing or another that Sean said was true. Sean, Rodney was true. Well, Pete Diddy's real name is Sean. Oh, I could call him Sean too. It's just that it reminds me of Shawn Mendes. And when I say Sean, I feel like I'm talking about Shawn Mendes and that I'm disrespecting him. And he supposedly wanted to pay, well, not supposedly, it's the truth, he wanted to pay $50 million to the federal LISO of the United States to let him go free, right? Like for all this to happen. Him on the street, you know? Like for the whole trial to happen. Him being free, but no, they put him in jail because they knew he was going to escape, that he is a man with a lot of money, and obviously what he was going to do was escape. And also now they have him in a room without, you know, that he has nothing in that room, so he can't end his life like what Epstein did, you know. That Epstein, because obviously he was guilty, even though Pete Diddy says he is not guilty of anything, he still says to this day that he is not guilty of anything, that those people are liars. And now there are more than 50 victims who are coming forward to speak. Because also, well, let's talk a little about that man's parties, the terrible parties of that man. At those parties, it is said that too many shady things happened, that more than anything else, what they accused Pete Diddy of is kidnapping girls from the nightlife and men from the nightlife. Susanna kidnapped them and took them to the houses of Ask and for his parties so that they could do whatever they wanted with those people. I mean, literally to the women, to the men, Susanna. They abused them. They were like the guests' toys. They did whatever they wanted with these people. They ruled them or abused them. The worst part is that among those people they deprived of their freedom, there were underage children. And well, now let's talk about the famous people involved. The celebrities who were seen very close with Pete Diddy. Let's start with J-Lo. This year is not going well for Jennifer Lopez. Thing after thing after thing. J-Lo and Pete Diddy had a 2-year relationship. They worked together from 1999 until 2001. And they had a relationship, as J-Lo says, that she would describe as quite crazy. But she was very happy with Pete Diddy, right? As I just told you, there was a shooting in which J-Lo and Pete Diddy were involved. So what does it matter? Well, I'm going to call him Sean as well for a change. And not always be saying Pete Diddy, Pete Diddy, Pete Diddy. Say, what does it matter that J-Lo and Sean were in a nightclub, and in conclusion, Diddy poured champagne on him, then he started throwing money, and supposedly that's when the shooting started, so they quickly left the place, they started running all the red lights, the police stopped them, saw that J-Lo had a gun in her purse, and obviously it was known that they left that bar. J-Lo was jailed for 14 hours, he was also jailed, Susanna. In the end, they blamed someone else. Well, not supposedly. They blamed another 21-year-old boy who had nothing to do with all that event because dear Sean Opitiri bought off the police. He also bought off the boy who pleaded guilty, Susanna, that obviously he was not the guilty one. And so to this day, the same Rodney, the one who filed the strong lawsuit, the same Rodney says that to this day, he mocks that he says that at that time, he saw that he had too much power. At that time, well, yes, that happened. It is also said that J-Lo's mom went to pick up J-Lo from prison after spending 14 hours in prison. And it is said that J-Lo's mom started to scold her very loudly. And she started to say, I told you never to get together with that man. That man was not good for you. Na, they stayed together. Then they separated in an interview. She said they separated because supposedly he was being unfaithful. And like she realized, so people say, oh, J-Lo, please, the worst thing that man did was not being unfaithful to you. Because everyone knows the terrible things that happened at his parties. And there are photos of you looking very happy with him in bed with others at a party. So everyone is like J-Lo, J-Lo, J-Lo. They are also telling J-Lo that she does everything for money. That look, you know, with the person she ended up getting together with to have popularity in this world, you know, of fame. That in the end, obviously it served her, you know, getting together with him. Because look where she is today. And also that she never ended up fighting with him because she knew that would not be convenient. Imagine that even in 2020, they did a live together dancing. She always seemed very close with him. You know that they would meet somewhere, they would greet each other and get along super well. Another person who is much involved with him is Usher. Usher lived with him for a year when Usher was 13 years old. And just imagine, he was underage, and it is thought that he was the first underage victim of P. Diddy. So yes, they lived together for a year, and Usher in some interviews always says it with laughter, but he says that that was for him. Quite revealing as he explains it, he says that these are things that a minor should not see, you know? That he experienced things that he would not recommend to any minor. Like, he would open the door of his room and says that there in front of the door of his room, he could see men with men, woman with man, or a group of people being intimate. And he was only 13 years old. And he was like, oh. And also in the interviews, they would ask him, right? Usher appeared uncomfortable in the interview when asked about intimacy with someone at a specific time. He repeatedly changed the subject, saying he didn't want to talk about it.
For something they are now judging Usher for.
It's because if he went through that and he saw how traumatic it was, because to this day they asked him, would you let your children live with P. Diddy? Or go to the field of I don't know what of P. Diddy? And he clearly said no. So people say, then why did you do that with the talents you discovered? And for example, with Justin Bieber, who is a person who is being talked about a lot right now, Justin Bieber, when he was discovered. But according to him, he was first discovered not by Usher, but by Scooter Braun. And since it is said that P. Diddy always wanted to meet him and always wanted to have custody of Justin Bieber in the United States, but they didn't want to give it to him, then Usher became his manager. And the first thing he almost did was take him to P. Diddy.
So the worst thing is that it was even recorded in a video, so...
The worst thing is that it was even recorded in a video. It's a video that you're left like knowing how disgusting that man is and the disgusting things he did. Also knowing that he for years ago already wanted to meet Justin Bieber and have custody of Justin Bieber in the United States, and him being the manager of Justin Bieber, and they wouldn't let him, Susanna. And then when they let him, he looked like he was so eager, and he told Justin Bieber that in those 48 hours he was going to live the dream of any teenager. And now people believe that, who knows, you know what happened between the two of them that made Justin Bieber well marked for life. Justin Bieber, after teenager, began to be seen doing very crazy things. Also, there is even a video that is circulating when Justin was 16. I mean, a year after he spent those 48 hours with P. Diddy, that P. Diddy is claiming him that, oh, don't answer my calls, I don't know what, you don't talk to me like before. And Justin looks super nervous, you know? And now many people are making the link between his song Yomi and what he had to live with P. Diddy in his adolescence. In the recordings of that video, he looked very sad, very affected. And the truth is that for me, that breaks my heart. If you want, I can make a video like talking specifically about Justin Bieber and that guy and P. Diddy, because in this video, obviously I'm not going to focus only on Justin Bieber, but many people think that P. Diddy did something to Justin Bieber, and that really traumatized him. And that's why Justin Bieber today has so many mental problems and is so traumatized, and is even so traumatized with the world of fame, that he doesn't even want to show his son's face on the internet. He doesn't want anything. He doesn't want to see anything with all this. Also,
It is thought that Jaden Smith
was another victim of P. Diddy, or maybe not of P. Diddy, but rather of people like P. Diddy in the industry. And that's why he and Justin have such a close relationship. So much so that even Justin on Jaden's birthday, he made a post saying like, only you and I know what we've been through. You are very strong. I know everything you've been through in life. I admire you so much. And they have always been seen very united. And Jaden also like that he doesn't seem so well mentally. And yes, maybe Jaden also went through something like Justin Bieber. Many people are also blaming Will Smith because Will Smith was seen very close with Diddy. So they said If Will was so close with Diddy, who knows also what could have happened with Will Smith's son, you know that I am not assuming anything. I am telling you things that I have seen on the internet. It is also thought that Rihanna, according to a person very close to Pete Diddy, Jawa Wright or something like that is her name. She is a singer who was discovered by Pete Diddy in 1998 and even was a backup singer for Jay-Z. So she's telling a lot of things she saw. She's been telling all these things for years, but nobody believed her. So now people are believing her because they are seeing evidence, right? That all of this is real. And well, yes, she tells that Jay-Z is 1,000 times worse than Big D, that Jay-Z does 1,000 worse things, that he has sent many people he didn't like, or people he saw as competition for him or for his wife Beyonce. For example, they put Laya. It's pronounced Aaliyah.
Talia, yes.
Her death was also very strange because she didn't want to board the plane on which she died. Because she died in a plane crash because her plane crashed. She knew they wanted to end her life, and that's why she didn't want to do anything. If JC told her, come to my house, get on this plane, she didn't want to. So they had to give her illicit substances. So she would agree to do that. She did it. And then her plane exploded. So they're saying that JC had something to do with all of this. There's also another model who was very close to them. She got pregnant supposedly by JC. He was with Beyonce at that time, and she died in such a way. You know, it's very strange, and there have been several deaths associated with him. And well, she says, yes, that Jay-Z is terrible, you know. If you think Pete Diddy is bad, imagine Jay-Z, who is Pete Diddy's best friend. And that leaves you with a lot to think about, you know. If you are best friends with someone like Pete Diddy, you're not so different from him, you know. The saying goes, tell me who you hang out with and I'll tell you who you are. Pete Diddy and Jay-Z have known each other since they were teenagers and are still close friends. The woman claims Jay-Z is most afraid of Pete Diddy speaking out because he knows all of Jay-Z's dark secrets. However, it's unlikely Pete Diddy will ever expose Jay-Z due to their strong friendship. And well, speaking of Jay-Z, I wanted to refer to Rihanna. That woman says that she is sure that Rihanna is Jay-Z's trafficker. He allegedly engaged in inappropriate behavior with Rihanna when she was underage, leading her to leave the music industry. Once she became successful, Rihanna shifted her focus to other ventures and no longer associates with Jay-Z or Beyonce, nor with any of those people. And in this video, I'm not assuring anything because there's no proof of this.
Concise ones either.
She doesn't get along with Naomi Campbell, who was too close with P. Diddy. Naomi Campbell is close with everyone, including the worst people in Hollywood, you know? Like with Jeffrey Epstein and Dan Schneider, she was also super close with them, as well as Oprah. I need to make a video about Oprah because she seems suspicious to me, you know? Like, I used to admire Oprah for all the things she said. But she's also a very suspicious woman because she gets along with all the bad people. Also, another thing that's very strange, when they asked Pitty, who's your favorite party guest? He said Leonardo DiCaprio. What the It's nothing to be proud of, knowing everything that happens at Pidiri's parties these days. Being his favorite guest isn't a point of pride, Susanna, because if you are, it's due to doing all the sick things Pidiri enjoys. Sick. Another one who loved Pidiri's parties was LeBron James, Susanna, who is now being dragged through the mud on all social networks because LeBron was always super friendly with Pidiri and they were always seen super close together, Susanna. And now that one knows the things that happen, and you say that because I tell you what he liked the most was to have group intimacy with celebrities. For example, he always wanted to be with Ficticia and Ficticia never wanted to be with him, and he tried to make her life impossible, but Ficticia never let herself be, Susanna, I think.
I didn't participate or go to those parties either. Much of the celebrity culture you don't hear about is due to their participation.
So in the end, the book he didn't want published was released. It reveals all the horrible things he did, which is essentially everything I mentioned. His children denied the book was their mother's, claiming she would never write such a book about their father. I understand their defense as his children, but I've witnessed behavior from his sons that makes me believe they are smaller versions of him, you know? That they are just as nefarious as their father. I really hope that he ends up speaking, you know? To reduce his sentence despite maintaining his innocence. That man is clearly guilty, Susanna. If he wants a reduced sentence, he'll have to talk. And I hope that he really exposes a lot of people and that all of this comes to light. You know, and the truth is, it surprises me that sometimes people, the more money they have, you say the money, that person with so much money, well, they're not going to have problems. The richer they are, the more issues they seek out, Susanna. The more money they have, the sicker they are, the more problematic they are. You say, friend, you could have your life sorted out. You could solve the life of your children, your grandchildren, your great-grandchildren, your great-great-great-great-grandchildren. And what you choose is to do that with your life, to destroy other people's lives, you know? I don't know, I swear it impresses me. And that's why I couldn't upload this video yesterday, because I was traumatized, Juana Maria. For the past 3 days, I've been seeing things about this man every day, things about this man, things about this man. And honestly, my mind goes crazy because I say, how is it possible that someone could dare to do all those atrocities, Susanna? Really, and can sleep peacefully at night. I lie and I feel bad, you know? I tell a lie and I feel bad the rest of the day. So I say, I don't know, I really don't understand. Also, the people who get along well with that man, the people who were very friendly with Diddy, for me, obviously, they have to be like him or something similar to him, you know? In this video, I forgot to mention that over 1,000 bottles of baby oil were found at his house. He also had cameras everywhere, which he allegedly used to blackmail celebrities or anyone who wanted to expose him. He possessed many weapons and more than 700 toys. Halloween month is coming and I'm super excited. Juana Maria, I want to decorate the area behind me for Halloween already. In this month of Halloween. Yes, I want to do several cases for you. Like for me, paranormal. I wanted to tell you a little about JC and Beyonce's relationship, Susanna, because those people are very strange. About Oprah, that Oprah one had her as a goddess, Susanna, but that woman has been involved in many horrible things, among other people that you can write to me here in the comments. Things that you want me to talk about for this month of Halloween. And yes, well, I send you a little kiss on the Anastasio. I love you too much. Obviously, in this video, I could not talk about everything that is happening because there are many things. More information can be written in the comments below. I love you very much. Take good care of yourselves. Love you if you made it this far and are a true bitch. Also, since this video is lengthy, comment a black heart if you watched up to this point and say you're a true supporter. Thank you for the support. This video wasn't as humorous as my usual content with memes, though I'm not claiming my videos are hilarious. However, this serious topic requires the gravity it deserves. Thank you for watching this video, love.